Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at one of the classic coolers of the last few years. This is the Deepcool Gammaxx GT. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we're taking a look at Deepcool's Gammaxx GT. This is one of a very wide range of coolers from Deepcool in their Gammaxx range. They do appear to be competing somewhat with themselves with some of the coolers on the market, and they all do differ very, very slightly, a few different features. There was the original, which I personally liked, which was the 400, which you can check out the video, which is right back in the day. Check that out up here. Really good cooler, and pretty much is a Hyper 212 Evo. Very much, even to this very day, a lot of the coolers on the market, especially the kind of traditional 120mm tower coolers with 4 heat pipes, they all are essentially based around the same thing. There's not a great deal you can do to change it, but what you can do to change it is make the installation easier. You can add other features such as addressable RGB or RGB, and you can also add other nice little add-ons such as RGB controllers, all of those kinds of things, and screwdrivers, just things to make life a little bit easier. So we're going to take a look at all the things you get actually in the packaging today, go through installation, how that works, how simple it is. It is actually pretty simple actually for this one. We'll go straight into some tests, give you some temperature tests, see how well it does against actually a lot more expensive cooler. And it's actually surprising how close it is. And then we'll come back at the end of the video with my final thoughts and my recommendations. So let's get straight into it. So let's get stuck straight in. So first of all, the actual cooler itself, as you can see, if we take it out of the packaging here. So this is what I would refer to as a traditional 120mm tower style cooler. We have got better fins on here now. So the fins are actually a bit thicker. So these are 0.5mm fins, which actually make the fin stack actually quite a bit more weighty than usual. The density is better, and also that does aid the installation, because if you're moving the fins around, although they do bend a little bit, they don't stay bent. So some of the more flimsy ones we get from kind of AliExpress, Alibaba, etc., you touch those and they kind of bend and you have to spend ages trying to bend them back into place. This is actually a really substantial unit. Also, you can see on the bottom there is the cold plate, and you do have the exposed copper heat pipes there. So we've got 6mm heat pipes, 4 of them in total. Nice smooth finish on here as well, really nicely finished. In fact, the whole thing is very nicely done. There's no real sharp edges or anything that you'd expect for one of these kind of fin type designs. So they've done a particularly good job there. What they have done as well to kind of separate it slightly more from the pack, although that is very difficult these days, is they've added an RGB element to this top section. So we've got the black type version on the top here, hence the name, Gammaxx GT Black. So if you've got a black top, there is also a version of this with a silver top as well, although slightly more scarce though. I haven't actually seen one in wild, so if you have seen one, let me know in the comment section below. But certainly I do like the black version. I think it looks really nice, and it does contrast really nicely with the RGB which is behind it. So there is a plastic RGB diffuser behind there, and also around the outside edge. You're probably seeing this from some of the cutaway that I filmed earlier on today. That is all controlled from a cable which runs down through the central channel there, and it's got this kind of quick release connection which connects to the rest of the system, which we'll take a look at now. The RGB system comprises of a RGB controller, which is optional. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. Now this is 12 volt RGB, it isn't addressable RGB. In fact, there is actually an addressable RGB version of this, which I'll link in the video description below, along with some of the other models as well, which may be of interest. So this is for 12 volt RGB systems. Now most motherboards these days, you will find that there is going to be a 12 volt RGB header and also a 5 volt addressable RGB header. And generally most software will actually play nicely, and as you can see from the footage, it does look quite nice and it can blend in certain instances. Obviously, if you're setting it to a static color, then it isn't going to be a problem whether it's 12 volt or 5 volt, because it's just going to be a static color. But obviously do bear that in mind if you're looking to integrate this into a particular system. Just be aware that obviously 12 volt RGB is very different from 5 volt addressable, and you can choose a cooler depending on which you prefer. And in fact, they are pretty much exactly the same price at their normal retail prices. Anyway, with that said, so the controller itself comes with 3 little buttons on it. So there's a memory button, there is a brightness button and a mode button, and also speed, that sort of thing. So you can choose through various different types of colors. Again, you're probably seeing this from some footage I filmed a little bit earlier on. That actually terminates into this kind of quick release connection, which is pretty much proprietary to Deepcool's own range. If you want to actually daisy chain this and link it in with other fans, I would suggest probably using it with their own RF120 fans. Again, we'll link those below as well, so if you want to set up a whole system, you can do very easily. It is SATA powered, which is nice to see, rather than being Molex. Now, you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can just go ahead and use this other cable, which will plug it into your motherboard, so into that 12-volt RGB header, and then that goes into that quick release connector. You can plug all this together and plug it into the fan. So the fan is a 120mm fan, as you can probably see. Got rubberized corners, both sides, to stop vibrations and things like that. Nice fan, actually, does its job very well. Very quiet, these fans as well. They do say in the books they're around about 27 decibels peak. Realistically, I can't tell, even under full load at 1500 RPMs, pretty much the same noises as the rest of the fans in the PC system. They do actually seem to do a very good job. They look quite nice. I would have liked the diffusion of the RGB to be a little bit more even, again, because of what it is, and also how cheap these are. These are really actually cheap fans and cheap coolers. You can pick this up at the moment, if you're lucky. Normally $29.99 is the retail price, but you can often find them on a bargain. Actually, Ugly Bob, or Santa Bob as we call him, actually sent this to us for review purposes. This one on a deal, I think it came in at about £22-23. So for that sort of money, yeah, it's an absolute steal. At £30, still good value for money, I believe, but we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail as we wrap up. So fan, very easy to use, again, very quiet, does what it's meant to do. Two cables coming off this, so one of them is going to be the RGB cable, so that is, again, that proprietary connection, and the other one is a 4-pin for PWM. So the pass-through connector on here, so you've got a male and a female, so obviously this is going to be a pass-through for the actual RGB on the cooler, into there, and then into the hub or into your motherboard. So yeah, very straightforward, very easy to do. This attaches to the cooler itself with clips, which I'm not always a massive fan of, but you do get 4 clips. So you can, if you want to, you can get another one of these fans and have it in a push-pull configuration. These just clip onto the side, very simple, very straightforward, and just hook onto the side of the actual tower itself. Again, you're probably seeing some pictures of this from when I did it a little bit earlier on. They clip on very nicely, very easily, and even actually with a graphics card installed, even in my case, which again you're seeing footage of, it's actually pretty easy to get the fan off should you need to do any adjustments, or to take it off for repasting, all that kind of stuff. So in terms of actually installation, very simple, very straightforward, and yeah, something nice to see actually these days. Nice, easy to install cooler. And talking of easy to install, you're probably saying to yourselves, Mike, how easy is it to install? Well, there's a really nice guide which comes with it, which tells you how to install it. It is compatible with AM3, AM4, FM1, all those kinds of AMD sockets. Up to around about 140 watts is what they're recommending as a heat load. When you go to Intel, they're saying 150 watts, which I don't quite understand how that works, but still. It doesn't support some of the newer Intel standards, such as the LGA 1700 and the soon-to-becoming LGA 1800, which is creeping its way towards us. And also as well, it isn't going to support at the moment AM5. Whether or not they will produce brackets, I would say due to the kind of the ferocity that they actually recreate these models and keep on seeming to update them, I would imagine they'll just do a new model for all of those types of sockets. So this, I would say, essentially is going to be a one-shot deal for your existing platforms. Probably look at changing this as platforms change in a few years' time or later on this year, depending obviously how often you upgrade your rig. But anyway, talking about how easy it is to install, so very straightforward. If you're doing an Intel setup, then you've got these two brackets. If you're doing a AMD setup, you've got the two longer brackets, and they just fit on the side of the cooler. Very easy to do. There's a little channel there. Just put the bracket against the side there, which I thought at first this is going to be awkward to do because of how close the screws are to the actual fin stack. But there is actually little indentations there, so you can get your screwdriver in. And actually it was a really simple thing to install. There's a screw on each side, which is countersunk, which goes into there, holds it all into place. So yeah, in terms of that, it's very, very easy to do, which is actually very useful because I actually made the rookie mistake, as people do, of doing it all, installing it all, getting it all ready, and then realizing that I had forgotten the sticky pad on the bottom. So do make sure you take off the sticky pad on the bottom, otherwise you'll end up taking it all apart and you'll probably get into Windows and think, why are my temperatures so particularly bad? But yes, they were awful temperatures to begin with, but they got considerably better as we went into it. Again, into the mounting section, the backplate, it does actually use its own custom backplate. So you've got one side for AMD, flip it around and you've got the Intel on the other side. It's all marked out very clearly to tell you which part goes where. Little hexagonal lugs which go into the back. Then you've got these kind of thumb screw type sections there. So this replaces your existing AM4 backplate. Put that behind, screw these on, and then these bits kind of screw into there. So yeah, very simple, very easy to do. Actually works very well. I've got to be honest with you, I was looking at it thinking, oh God, there's loads of bits and pieces to actually mess around with here. But the installation method is actually very simple and does provide some actually pretty decent results considering how cheap it is. So let's take a look at some of those results. Now starting off, let's go with Cinebench R23. And I have put this against something which is a completely unfair competition, but what the heck, we'll do it anyway. So I put this up against Silverstone's Hydrogon, which is a twin tower, twin fan model, costing pretty much double what this costs, but anyway, you'll see why later. So we did the test on that Cinebench R23, and we've got a score with the Gammaxx of 17,640, and with the Silverstone we got 18,18,2. So there is quite a difference between that. Realistically, that would be the difference between, I guess, if you were running Cinebench and you had maybe OneDrive and maybe Discord running in the background. If you close down Discord, if you close down OneDrive, run the test again, you'll probably find you gain around about that amount of points anyway to level it up. So not a huge difference, but certainly it is noticeable. So if you're looking for all-out performance for rendering tasks, that kind of thing, then obviously you might want to up your game a little bit. Now this is being tested with a Ryzen 9 3900 in a 32 gig system on a X570 motherboard. So yeah, it is probably a little bit above what this cooler is really intended for, but certainly it's worth it for the test. So let's look at some temperature tests. So temperature tests, this is run actually while Cinebench was running, and we took the highest temperatures, and also we then left it to idle for a little while, about 5 minutes in the test, then 5 minutes idle, and we recorded the lowest and the highest recorded temperatures. So first of all, looking at the Silverstone. So the Silverstone got a low speed of 34.8 degrees Celsius, and on the high point we got 69.4. So actually pretty decent temperatures. This room is about 25 degrees at the moment, so quite warm in here today. So let's take a look at see how well the Gammaxx did. So the Gammaxx came in with a low speed of 38 degrees, so about 3 or 4 degrees warmer, and under the full load we've got 72.4. So again, we've got actually almost exactly the same, so 3 degrees higher, which actually, considering this is a single tower unit with a single 120mm fan against a considerably bigger cooler, a lot more heat density, 2 fans, 2 towers, it very much is an unfair fight, which actually just goes to show how well the Gammaxx can actually do. Considering how cheap it is, again, if we pick it up on a bargain, which there quite often is on Amazon, again, put some affiliate links in the video description. If you can pick it up somewhere in the region of about £22, £23, somewhere underneath £25, I think you're onto a real winner. At £30, still a very good cooler. Me personally, I would probably edge towards the addressable RGB version if they were the same price. Potentially putting a little bit of a stick in the spokes is going to be the Vitro V5, which is actually on offer generally on Amazon quite frequently. Normal retail price of that one, somewhere in the region of about £32, quite often reduced by about £5 or £6 down to about £27. So that is going to be your kind of direct competition. Between the two, I would say the Vitro V5 against the addressable RGB version of this, there isn't a great deal in them, so it's going to come down to local pricing in your regions and if there's any special offers on. Certainly performance-wise, I would say there's pretty much nothing in it, although I would say the Vitro V5 fan is a little bit noisier on the high end than the one from Deepcool. But anyway, that is my findings. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.